Jon, you're a mastermind. Can you be a bit frustrating for the fans and for the people in the UFC? I think it's fair to say that you would even admit that that is the case. But goddamn, sometimes you know how to wait. He's smart when it comes to figuring out how to find himself in the fights that he wants, in the big spotlight, in finding the things that motivate him. It all seems so strategic to me. As much as 321 was a disappointment for both Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall, there were some people in the wings that were probably a bit ecstatic and happy that the fight went down the way it did. Those two people are Alex Pereira and Jon Jones, who already came out on Twitter putting a fight offer out there to each other. Jon Jones accepted the offer from Pereira. Now listen, Pereira had already teased that he wanted to fight Jon Jones at heavyweight at the White House. And I think a lot of people were like, I don't know if this can happen. You know, what about Tom Aspinall? He's going to be the heavyweight champ. It's going to be weird to let a champion like Alex Pereira jump into a different weight class as a champion to fight a non-champion in Jon Jones on such a big stage like the UFC at the White House. But when you've got something go down like that, where it kind of leaves just a bad taste in our mouths, where we didn't really get to see the result, Tom, people are saying maybe he showed some holes in his game, blah, blah, blah. I won't get into the X's and O's of that fight and how it went down. We all know that, and we all saw it, and I talked about it already, the eye poke and the whole fiasco that it was. But I think it opens up a massive door for this fight to actually happen, because now I don't think we care that the belt is still in Tom's hands. But obviously he's got a rematch. Ciryl Gane, Dana White said so himself. So in the interim, while we're waiting for that to happen, or even around the same time, now Pereira can move up to heavyweight. He can take on Jon Jones, and I think it's just going to be a whole lot of interest going into that fight, because beforehand, it just seemed weird for him to jump up and make that. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, it's in poor taste. It seems like you're reveling in the failures of both these guys that just happened in the main event in Abu Dhabi. But this game is short-lived for anybody. Even if you have a long career in terms of having a career, it's very short, and you've got to strike while the iron is hot. And I think that's exactly what Pereira is doing. He kind of walked away from the TV in a video where you see when the result happened, and he's kind of just chuckling. And then soon after, he's right out on social media making a call to Jon Jones. And Jon, we give Jon Jones a lot of shit. He's gotten a lot of trouble over the years. He's done some silly things and gotten himself involved in all kinds of nonsense. One thing I will say about him, whether you like it or not, is he's smart when it comes to figuring out how to find himself in the fights that he wants, in the big spotlight, in finding the things that motivate him. It all seems so strategic to me, right? Retiring, ducking Tom Aspinall. Now that you sit back and think that he could be on the cusp of fighting at the White House, which is what he wanted when that came out. He didn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. Even when the fight for Tom Aspinall was on the table and that's all anybody wanted, who did he want to fight? Alex Pereira, who was still fighting at 205, still had this fight waiting in the wings for him with Ankalaev. Now, that fight happens. Pereira looks great. He wins the rematch. He gets the finish. Jon's still waiting in the wings, not doing anything. The Aspinall fight happens. It's weird. There's an eye poke. People are questioning Tom. Ciryl Gane is disappointed. He's crying in the cage. Everybody is disappointed with UFC 321. They kind of have a bad taste in their mouth for that whole situation. So now it sets up beautifully the opportunity for this fight to happen at the White House. And I got to be honest, as much as I've given Jon Jones some shit over the years, I would absolutely love to see that fight. I love the opportunity, more importantly, for Pereira, who has done everything that he's ever been asked to do as a fighter in the UFC. He's been he's multiple weight class champion. Why not give this guy an opportunity? He's 38, 39 years old. I'm not exactly sure, but he's near the end of his career. He had a lengthy kickboxing career before he ever even got into the UFC. And now he gets an opportunity to jump up one more weight class to take on the absolute GOAT in Jon Jones. And I think it's an opportunity that he's deserved. And now it just seems to make complete sense. However, I think we also have to kind of talk about, well, what do I think is going to shake down if that fight does take place? And I do think that even if Jon Jones hasn't been training a day in the amount of time since the Stipe fight, I think that he is just too much for a guy like Pereira. I know that Pereira has shown some good takedown defense against Ankalaev in the first matchup, and then obviously he went out there and he just made quick work of him in the rematch. But I just think that the length that Jon Jones has, even though they're similar heights, the way that he fights, the way he uses his reach, the way he uses all of his weapons, the way he can wrestle, use elbows, the way that he can fight tactical, sharp, and keep it where he wants it at his range at all times. I just think he's going to be too much. I think it would be a Jon Jones win. And I think if he still has the desire to keep fighting, Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane, they rematch. They go out there. If Tom wins, I think it sets up that fight still, if he wants it. Because now I think Jon also has had time to kind of see Tom face a bit of adversity. I don't want to say he was scared of him. I think he was being really smart and waiting to see, okay, let's see him fight a little more. He's been knocking everybody out. He's on this. Let's get a little bit more buzz from him. Let's get a little bit more time in the cage to see what happens when somebody gives him a bit of adversity. And I think that happened in the Cyril Gane fight. Even though it ended in the first round via eye poke and it was a no contest, I think we saw that somebody with that length, with that athleticism that can match Tom, it could give him trouble. That's not saying that Tom's not going to go out there in the rematch, have learned a ton from that and go out there and win that fight, potentially. But I think that if that fight with Tom ever was to happen, it's going to be down the line, and it would be if he goes out there and looks impressive against Cyril Gane in that rematch. I think Jon is just annoyingly smart with how he approaches these things and doesn't care what we say. Does not care how much trash we talk. I mean, he might get on Twitter and snap back at you, but it's not going to deter him from doing what he wants to do and waiting until the time is right for him. So, I mean, on that note, Jon, you're a mastermind when it comes to that. Can you be a bit frustrating for the fans and for the people in the UFC? I think it's fair to say that you would even admit that that is the case. But goddamn, sometimes you know how to wait, and patience is a virtue, and that is one maybe that Jon Jones has.